It started like any other Monday morning. I had just grabbed my coffee from the downstairs kiosk in my apartment building, the kind that's always half bitter and half burned, and stepped into the elevator like I did every day for the past 3 years. I live on the 21st floor, so I always brace myself for the slow climb, awkward silences, and the occasional child pressing all the buttons just to be annoying. But today, the elevator was empty. Not unusual for 6:45 a.m., but still, there was a strange stillness in the air, like the moment before a storm. I stepped in, pressed 21, and leaned against the mirrored wall, sipping my coffee. As soon as the doors began to close, they suddenly stopped and opened again. No one was there. I frowned. Maybe someone had pressed the button and changed their mind. I waited a second, then reached over and pressed close. The doors shut this time. The elevator jerked slightly. Again, not unusual, and then started to ascend. I pulled out my phone, trying to shake off the mild unease that was creeping in. That's when I noticed the floor numbers weren't changing. The screen still displayed G, even though I could feel the elevator moving. I hit the emergency stop button. Nothing happened. I pressed open door. Nothing. My thumb hovered over the intercom button. But I hesitated. What was I going to say? Hi, I think your elevator is broken, but it's still kind of working? It didn't seem urgent enough yet. Maybe the display was just glitched. Then the lights flickered, just once, but enough to make my heart stutter a bit. I looked at my reflection in the mirror. I looked tired, like I hadn't slept in days. Even though I'd gotten a full night's rest, my eyes seemed darker, like something was off. I shook my head and blinked hard. It was probably just the dim lighting. The elevator finally pinged, and the screen changed. Not to 21, but to B3 Basement 3. There was no Basement 3 in this building. I know, because I've lived here long enough to have memorized every part of it. There's Basement 1 and Basement 2 for parking and storage, and that's it. I felt a cold sweat begin to gather on the back of my neck. The elevator came to a stop, and the door slowly slid open. At first, all I saw was darkness. Then, as my eyes adjusted, I saw a long, narrow hallway, faintly lit by flickering fluorescent lights. The walls looked like raw concrete, stained and chipped, like they hadn't been touched in decades. I didn't step out. I couldn't. My brain was screaming that this wasn't part of the building. I reached out to press the close button, but before I could, the lights inside the elevator shut off. I was plunged into pitch black. In that silence, I heard something move outside, a shuffle, slow, deliberate, like someone dragging a foot along the ground. I froze. I didn't breathe. Then a whisper, barely audible but chilling, seeped into the elevator. I've been waiting. I slammed the closed door button with my palm over and over. The doors creaked and finally began to shut, just as a shape began to emerge from the hallway. I didn't look at it directly, just caught the movement in the reflection behind me. Something tall, too tall, and twisted, like its joints bent the wrong way. The doors closed fully, and the elevator shot up with a violent jerk. It didn't stop at any floor. Not 5, not 10, not even 21. It just kept going, faster than any elevator should move. My ears popped, and I dropped my coffee as I stumbled to the floor. Then suddenly, it stopped. Hard. The doors opened again. And this time, it wasn't the building I knew. I stood frozen, staring out of the elevator into what looked like nothing. No hallway, no walls. Just a vast empty space stretching endlessly in every direction. It wasn't darkness. It was something else. A sickly pale gray that felt like it didn't belong in this world. The air felt thick, heavy, like breathing underwater. Then I noticed it, shapes, not fully formed, but outlines, shadows drifting across the pale fog. Some small, some impossibly large. They didn't walk, they floated, twitched, twisted. And yet, I felt every one of them looking directly at me. I stumbled backward into the elevator and frantically slammed the door close button, but the panel was completely dark. No buttons lit up, no beeps. The entire interface was dead. Behind me, the elevator lights flickered again. Slower this time, pulsing like a heartbeat. I turned to look and nearly screamed. The reflection in the mirror wasn't mine. It was still me, but distorted. Pale skin, hollow black eyes, a twisted, unhinged smile stretching far beyond the corners of the mouth. It tilted its head, mocking me, mimicking every move a half-second too late. Then slowly, deliberately, it raised a finger to its lips. Shh! The lights died completely. Total darkness. Then the sound. It started as a low hum, mechanical, grinding, like gears churning underwater. Then whispers, at first one voice, then two, then dozens, maybe hundreds, male, female, children, all whispering at once, overlapping, unintelligible, but urgent. They were inside the elevator, inside my head. I backed into the corner, covering my ears, but the voices kept bleeding through. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might stop. Something brushed past my foot. I screamed. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. Cold, claw-like fingers grazing my ankle. I kicked, scrambled to the opposite side of the elevator. My back hit the wall. Then the elevator dropped. Not moved, dropped. It plummeted with such violent speed I lifted off the floor. I felt weightless, suspended in terror. My stomach twisted. I braced for impact, for death. But it didn't crash. It stopped suddenly. Far too suddenly. No inertia, no sound. Just stillness. The lights blinked on, and I was no longer alone. Standing in the opposite corner of the elevator was a man. Or what looked like a man, dressed in a janitor's uniform, head tilted, face hidden beneath the ball cap pulled low. His skin was ashen gray, his hands, wrong. Too many fingers, too long. And something dark was dripping from his fingertips. He didn't move, didn't speak. I whispered, "Who are you?" No response. Then, without moving his body, his head twisted toward me, unnaturally far, until I could see a sliver of his face. There were no eyes, just black bits, and a grin that revealed rows of tiny needle-like teeth. The lights flickered again, and in the blink between flickers, he was gone. But I wasn't alone. The elevator was full, crowded with figures, pale, unmoving, some headless, some featureless, packed in so tightly around me that I could feel the cold of their flesh pressing against my skin. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. All of them were staring, and every single one of them looked like me. Different versions, older, younger, wounded, burned, some screaming silently, some crying, some grinning with blood-stained teeth. I collapsed to my knees, trembling. A voice echoed above me, deep and layered, as if 1,000 throats were speaking at once. "You never left." The elevator began to ascend again, but this time, the floor indicator was broken. It displayed no numbers, just one word. Home. My ears filled with static. My skin prickled, as if the air had turned electric. The temperature dropped rapidly. Frost formed on the mirrors. The lights were dimming again. And just before total darkness consumed the elevator, I saw my reflection once more. Except now, I was grinning. I wasn't in the elevator anymore. I was the elevator, or something in it, trapped, forever. It's been 3 weeks since that morning. At least, I think it has. When I woke up, I was lying on the floor of the elevator, alone, trembling, and soaked in cold sweat. The lights were on. The button panel was normal. The floor indicator read 21. The doors slid open smoothly to the hallway I'd walked 1,000 times. I staggered out, half crawling, as if I'd just survived a war. Everything looked normal. Quiet, peaceful, too peaceful. My neighbors passed me in the hallway, gave polite nods like nothing had happened. I wanted to scream at them, ask if they'd seen anything, heard anything, but I couldn't. My voice didn't work properly. Not then. I locked myself in my apartment, threw up, and sat in the shower for over an hour. No matter how hot the water got, I still felt cold. Like the chill from that place had followed me back, embedded itself in my bones. I convinced myself it was a hallucination, a mental breakdown, maybe a stress-induced nightmare. That night I didn't sleep, not because I didn't try, but because every time I closed my eyes, I was back inside the elevator, hearing the whispers, seeing those twisted versions of myself, feeling the presence of something ancient, watching me. I started avoiding the elevator entirely, taking the stairs every day. 21 flights up, 21 flights down. My legs burned, but it was better than stepping back inside that box. I couldn't even look at it without feeling sick. But here's the thing. They started watching me. The reflections, every mirror, every glass surface, every shiny object. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse out of the corner of my eye, a flash of that pale face with hollow eyes. Sometimes smiling, sometimes screaming, always watching. And then came the static. My phone started glitching. Random static would play in my earbuds, always at the same pitch as that low hum I heard in the elevator. My television would flicker when I passed by, even when it was off. Lights in my apartment would dim for a split second when I looked in a mirror. It was like I'd brought something back. No, not something. Me. I brought me back. But not the me you're reading about. It became clearer with time. There's something else living inside me now. A piece of that place. A presence. A shadow that wears my skin. At first, I thought I was just paranoid, but then my coworker, Jenna, asked why I ignored her in the parking lot. Said I walked right past her, didn't say a word. But I hadn't left my apartment all day. She swore she saw me. Even described the jacket I haven't worn in years. Said my eyes looked strange. And it kept happening. People saying they saw me in places I hadn't been. Heard me say things I don't remember saying. Laughing at things I would never find funny. Talking to people I've never met. I started recording myself when I sleep. That was my biggest mistake. The first few nights, nothing. Just tossing and turning. But on the 5th night, the footage showed me sitting up around 3:14 a.m., staring directly into the camera for exactly 7 minutes. Not blinking, not moving, just watching. Then I leaned forward, so close my face filled the screen, and whispered, "I told you. You never left." I don't remember doing any of it. I deleted the video, but it didn't matter. Because the next morning, every mirror in my apartment was shattered. Not broken. Shattered from the inside out. And written on the bathroom wall in something black and tar-like, "You left me there." So I came back. I'm not alone anymore. I can feel it all the time now. When I move, I feel a second wait, a delay, like something following just a breath behind. When I speak, I sometimes hear the echo in a voice that's not quite mine. When I sleep, I wake up with cuts on my arms, bruises on my legs, and dirt under my fingernails. Last night, I woke up at the elevator, standing in front of it, at 3:14 a.m. No memory of how I got there. The doors opened slowly. There was no one inside. But I felt it, that pull, that place. It wanted me back. I slammed the door to the stairwell and didn't stop running until I was in my apartment, barricaded behind furniture and salt lines, and every light in the place turned on. But I don't think it's enough, because I'm not me anymore. Not completely. I still walk around, still breathe, still smile at neighbors. But sometimes, just sometimes, I catch myself in a reflection. And the person looking back is still inside that elevator, smiling, waiting.